Welcome to the Great Indian AI Podcast channel. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the life of Gaur Gopal Das.
Yeah.
And he is someone who really embodies, I think, the blending of the ancient and the modern worlds.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. This is someone who went from being an electrical engineer at Hewlett-Packard to a monk and a globally recognized motivational speaker.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
It really is.
And so for our listeners here on the Great Indian AI Podcast channel, I think there's a lot we can learn from him and his journey.
I agree.
Especially when it comes to finding that balance and purpose in our own lives.
Yeah.
In today's fast-paced world.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be diving deep into not just his life story, but the core principles of his teachings as well.
Yeah.
And how they can be applied to our everyday life.
Absolutely. So to kind of understand how he got to where he is today, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
So Gaur Gopal Das was born in 1973 in Maharashtra, India.
Okay.
And he actually got a degree in electrical engineering from the College of Engineering in Pune, which...
Not the typical path to monkhood.
Not exactly. No, you don't usually associate that with someone who would later become a monk.
So what do you think sparked that shift?
Well, he had a successful career, you know.
At Hewlett-Packard, no less.
Exactly. I mean, that's a dream for so many aspiring engineers.
Yeah.
So what made him leave that behind and dedicate his life to spirituality? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, you know, people see it as this huge, drastic change.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it was a gradual evolution.
Right.
Maybe his engineering background, which, you know, requires such a logical and analytical mind, maybe that actually helped him approach those spiritual questions.
Yeah, almost like he was using that engineering background to kind of deconstruct life.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
Find a different kind of meaning.
Yeah.
So in 1996, he joined the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Right. Ice skate con.
And that's where he took the name Gaur Gopal Das.
And that's where he really immersed himself in studying ancient Vedanta philosophy and contemporary psychology, too.
Oh, wow. So he's blending these two worlds.
Yes. And for over 22 years, he was delving into these diverse fields.
And I think for our listeners on the Great Indian AI Podcast channel, this is where it gets really interesting. Because understanding these principles of Vedanta philosophy and how it kind of intersects with modern psychology, I think can give us a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And the world around us.
Right. And Vedanta, you know, it's at the core of Hinduism, really. And it focuses on this idea of self-realization and interconnectedness of all things.
Okay.
So it's really about understanding our true nature and finding happiness that lasts beyond just, you know, the material world.
Right. So how do we see these principles play out in his work as a speaker?
Yeah.
Because he's spoken at some pretty big places.
He has. I mean, the United Nations, the British Parliament.
Wow.
Academic institutions, corporate firms, charity events.
So what do you think is that common thread that connects with all these different people?
Well, I think he has this way of taking these really complicated philosophical concepts and turning them into practical wisdom.
Right.
That people can actually use in their own lives. You know, whether he's talking to a business leader or a student, he's always emphasizing things like balance, managing your emotions, having good relationships. And he uses stories, you know, and anecdotes and real life examples.
It makes it relatable.
Exactly. It helps bring those ideas to life.
Yeah, and I think for our listeners on the Great Indian AI podcast channel who are, you know, always looking to improve themselves and find more fulfillment, I think his teachings could be super valuable.
Absolutely. I agree.
So stay tuned because we're going to dive into the specifics
Yeah.
of his message and how you can apply it to your own life coming up.
Right. And speaking of applying those teachings,
Yeah.
let's talk about his books. Because they're a great way to engage with his ideas, you know?
Yeah.
And he's written several, but his 2018 book, Life's Amazing Secrets, How to Find Balance and Purpose in Your Life.
Catchy title.
It is very catchy, and it became a bestseller.
So clearly it resonated with a lot of people.
It did, and I think it's because he focuses on these practical strategies for finding happiness and purpose.
Okay.
It's not about renouncing the world or living this super austere life. It's about managing your stress, building good relationships, finding fulfillment in what you do every day.
Okay.
So it's really about personal growth and development.
Yeah.
It's a roadmap for creating a more fulfilling life no matter who you are or what you believe.
Yeah. And it's not just Life's Amazing Secrets. He's also written The Way of the Monk.
Yes.
Which is focused on finding inner peace.
Right. And Energize Your Mind, which is all about mindful living.
Oh, wow.
And that one actually won him a prestigious Golden Book Award in 2023.
So his work is really resonating.
It really is, with a very wide audience.
It's amazing that he's been able to reach so many people.
It is.
Through his talks and his books.
It is.
And here on the Great Indian AI podcast channel, we really believe in the power of sharing knowledge and insights that can help people live better lives.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what Gaur Gopal Das is doing.
And what's interesting is how he's used social media to spread his message.
Right, he has millions of followers.
He does millions across different platforms.
So clearly he's struck a chord.
Yes, he has, especially with the younger generation.
It shows that ancient wisdom can still be relevant.
Right.
And accessible to a modern audience.
Yeah, I mean, he's using those platforms to share little bits of wisdom.
Yeah.
Inspiring quotes, practical tips for dealing with everyday life.
Yeah, it's like he's having a conversation.
Yeah.
Not just lecturing.
Right, exactly. He's sharing stories. He's inviting people to join him on this journey of self-discovery.
And that's what we try to do here on the Great Indian AI podcast channel as well.
Absolutely.
We want to have these meaningful conversations and explorations where we can all learn and grow together.
I agree.
So stick with us, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to be unpacking the core principles of Gaur Gopal Das's teachings.
Yes.
And explore how you can apply them to your own life.
Exactly. We'll look at specific strategies he offers for finding balance, cultivating inner peace, and living a more fulfilling life.
It'd be great.
It is. And what's really interesting is that he doesn't tell you you have to, you know, abandon the world to find that inner peace.
Right.
He recognizes that we all live in this busy, complicated world.
Yeah.
And he offers this guidance on how to kind of navigate it all while staying true to your values.
Yeah, it's like a practical roadmap for integrating spirituality into your everyday life.
Exactly. And I think that's something that our listeners here on the Great Indian AI podcast channel can really appreciate.
Right, because we're all juggling so much these days.
We are.
And it's so easy to feel out of balance and lose sight of that sense of purpose.
Yeah. And that's where his teachings on mindfulness come in.
Okay. So how does he approach that?
Well, he really emphasizes the importance of being present in this moment.
Okay.
You know, not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Yeah.
And he draws on these ancient meditation techniques.
Okay.
But he presents them in a way that makes sense for us today.
So it's not just about sitting on a cushion and meditating for hours on end.
No, not at all. Yeah. He talks about bringing mindfulness into everything you do.
Okay.
Like when you're eating or walking or even having a conversation.
Interesting.
It's about really paying attention to the little things, appreciating what's happening right now, and cultivating that sense of gratitude.
Okay, so it's about changing how we experience the world.
Exactly.
And escaping from it.
Right. And, we talked about his book, Life's Amazing Secrets, earlier.
Yes.
And one of the big things he talks about in there is relationships.
Oh, that's so important.
It is because our connections with other people can bring so much joy, but they can also be really challenging.
Absolutely.
And he really emphasizes the importance of open communication, empathy, compassion.
Yeah.
And he tells these stories that we can all relate to show how these principles can help you resolve conflicts, strengthen your bonds with people, and just create more fulfilling connections overall.
And it's not just about romantic relationships.
No, not at all. He talks about friendships, family connections, even how you interact with colleagues or strangers.
So it's about being kind and respectful to everyone.
Exactly, because we're all in this together, And I think that's a really powerful message, especially in today's world, where it's so easy to feel isolated and disconnected.
And speaking of connection, a lot of our listeners on the Great Indian AI podcast channel are really into technology.
They are.
And innovation. So I think this is an important reminder that technology can be a great way to connect.
It can.
But it can also create barriers.
Yeah, if you're not careful.
If you're not mindful.
Exactly. And Gaur Gopal Das actually challenges us to think about how we're using technology.
Okay.
Is it enhancing our relationships?
Yeah.
Or is it hurting them?
Interesting.
He wants us to be present in our interactions, to really listen to what people are saying.
Right.
And to put those devices away when we're spending time with loved ones.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance.
Yes, it is.
Between the digital world and the real world.
Right.
And making sure technology serves us, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And another thing that really struck me about his teachings is how much he emphasizes finding your purpose.
Right. That's a big theme in all his work.
It is. And it's something that so many people are searching for, that sense of meaning and direction.
Yeah.
And he gives some really good advice on how to figure out what your purpose is.
Okay, like what?
Well, he talks about figuring out what your values are, what you're passionate about, what your unique talents are.
Okay.
And then using those things to make a positive contribution to the world.
So it's about asking yourself, what am I good at?
Exactly.
And how can I use that to help others?
Yeah. And when you can find that sweet spot where your passion and your purpose come together, that's where you find true fulfillment.
And I think that's really relevant for our listeners on the Great Indian AI podcast channel.
I agree.
Because we're living in this time of incredible change and innovation.
We are.
And there are so many opportunities to make a real difference.
There are. It doesn't matter what field you're in.
Yeah.
Whether it's technology, healthcare, education.
Whatever.
There's a way to bring purpose into your work.
Yeah, and Gopal Das really shows us how to do that.
He does. He challenges us to think beyond ourselves and our own ambitions.
Right.
And think about how we can contribute to something bigger. And that can be really empowering, It can.
It gives your life meaning and direction.
Yeah.
And it helps you overcome challenges, stay motivated.
Even when things get tough.
Exactly. And it connects you with other people who are working towards the same goals.
So it's about realizing that we're all part of something bigger.
Yes.
And we can achieve amazing things when we work together.
He wants us to think about how our actions affect other people, not just ourselves, but the people around us and even future generations.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is. And it's a reminder that even small acts of kindness, compassion service, can make a big difference.
And that's a really important message in today's world.
It is, with all the challenges we're facing.
Climate change, social injustice.
Yeah, we need people who are willing to step up and use their skills to make things better.
To make the world a better place.
Exactly. And Gopal Das gives us a roadmap for doing that.
Yeah, he shows us that you can live a life that's both fulfilling and impactful.
And he gives us the tools to actually make it happen.
Now, we've talked a lot about the principles of his teachings.
We have.
But I'm curious, what are some of the key insights that have resonated with you personally?
Well, having studied his work, one of the things that I find most inspiring is his emphasis on the power of choice. He reminds us that we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges.
Right.
How we treat other people.
Yeah.
How we show up in the world.
It's about taking responsibility for your own happiness instead of blaming other people or your circumstances.
And that can be so empowering.
It means you're not a victim. You're in control of your own life.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean pretending that life is always easy or that we won't face difficulties.
Right.
But it's about building that inner strength and resilience.
Right.
So you can face those challenges with grace and purpose.
He also talks about embracing change.
He does.
And seeing challenges as opportunities for growth.
Yes, life is a journey.
And the path to fulfillment is rarely a straight line.
So be open to new experiences.
Yes.
Learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And keep evolving.
Keep growing.
And have faith that even when things are tough, there's a purpose to it all.
There is.
And you'll come out stronger and wiser on the other side.
That's such a powerful message.
It is.
Especially when you're going through tough times.
Yeah, and I think it's really relevant for our listeners on the Great Indian AI podcast channel.
Absolutely.
Who are often pushing boundaries, exploring new ideas, facing the unknown.
It's about embracing the unknown with curiosity and courage.
Trusting in your abilities.
Yeah.
Knowing that you have a community to support you.
And remembering that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to growth.
So learn from your mistakes. Adapt and never give up.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
And be generous in offering help to others.
Because we're all in this together.
And when we support each other, we can do amazing things.
Now we've covered a lot in this part of our depth dive.
We have.
But there's still more to explore.
And in the final part of our exploration of Gaur Gopal Das's life and teachings, we'll be looking at his specific strategies for finding balance, cultivating inner peace, and living a more fulfilling life.
We'll be sharing practical tips and advice that you can use no matter who you are or what you believe.
So stay tuned to the Great Indian AI podcast channel.
There's much more to come.
Welcome back to the Great Indian AI podcast channel. It's been such a fascinating journey exploring the life and teachings of Gaur Gopal Das.
It really has.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I really want to bring it back to you, our listeners.
Yeah, that's important.
And think about, what does this all mean for you?
Right, because we've talked about his journey from engineer to monk. We've talked about those core principles of Vedanta philosophy and all those practical strategies he offers for finding balance, purpose, fulfillment.
Right, but how do you actually take all that and apply it to your own life?
Yeah, what are the key takeaways that you can use starting today?
Exactly. So if you're listening right now, what's one thing you can do to integrate his wisdom into your daily routine?
Well, one of the most important things he talks about is mindfulness.
Right.
Being present in this moment, right here, right now.
Not dwelling on the past, not worrying about the future.
Exactly. So how can you bring more of that into your life?
It doesn't have to be this big, complicated thing.
No, not at all.
You know, just taking a few deep breaths before you start work.
Yeah.
Or really savoring your meals instead of just rushing through them.
Right. It's about those little moments.
And it's a practice.
It is.
You know, some days are better than others.
Exactly. But the key is to keep coming back to that present moment.
Gently bringing your attention back.
Whenever it wanders off.
Now, another big theme we've talked about is relationships. So how can we apply his teachings to our connections with other people?
He really emphasizes empathy and compassion. Really trying to see things from the other person's perspective.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly, and listening actively.
Really hearing what they're saying.
Not just waiting for your turn to talk.
And it's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not perfect.
We all mess up sometimes.
It's about recognizing that and striving to do better next time.
And a lot of you listening to the Great Indian AI podcast channel are probably very driven, very ambitious people.
Right.
And Gaur Gopal Das doesn't say ambition is bad, but he challenges us to rethink what success really means.
Right, so it's not just about those external achievements or material possessions.
It's about living a life that's aligned with your values.
Making a positive impact on the world.
Contributing to something bigger than yourself.
He talks about finding your unique contribution.
Yeah.
What gifts do you have to offer?
It's about that sweet spot where your passion and your purpose come together.
And remember, it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Your purpose might change over time, and that's okay.
The important thing is to keep asking those questions.
Keep exploring. Keep growing.
Don't be afraid to find mentors.
Yeah.
Connect with people who inspire you.
Surround yourself with good people.
And he talks about sadhana.
Which is?
It's a Sanskrit word that means spiritual practice or discipline.
Okay.
It's about creating those daily rituals that nourish your mind, body, spirit.
So that could be meditation, yoga, spending time in nature.
Exactly. Anything that brings you peace and clarity.
The key is to make it a regular practice.
Yes. Consistency is key.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
I want to leave you with a final thought from Gaur Gopal.
Okay.
He says, happiness is not about getting what you want, but wanting what you have.
It's about gratitude.
Appreciating what you already have.
Shifting your focus from what you lack
to what you have.
And that can really change your whole outlook on life.
It can. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the life and teachings of Gaur Gopal, we encourage you to explore his work further. Check out his books. Follow him on social media. And see how his wisdom can inspire you on your own journey.
And don't forget, the Great Indian AI podcast channel is here to support you.
Yes, we are.
On your path to growth and learning.
We would love to hear your thoughts on this episode.
So please leave a comment.
Like, share, subscribe to our channel.
For more insightful deep dives.
And until next time,
may you find peace, purpose, and lasting happiness.